Hi, I'm Nick and this is the TbT channel, and this is the TbT Saturday night special. We're going to be doing a series of, we're just on a Saturday night, we're just going to do a video that's shooting related, but not necessarily air rifle related or air gun related. This is the first one. I asked for a few ideas and a couple of people came up with, well, Saturday night specials. So that's what I've got. The term Saturday night special has been around in general usage for a while, although how long is debated. There is a group of people who say it's been around since the late 19th century, and it related to the production of mass-produced, cheaply made, cheap to buy revolvers, which quite often got used on a Saturday night in fights, hence the Saturday night special. I have got an example there of one of those. And there are other people who say it started in the 60s and 70s. The term started in the 60s and 70s for pretty much the same reason. Cheap guns out on a Saturday night, too much drink, somebody gets shot. Whatever the actual origin of the phrase is, we now associate it with small revolvers. Okay, that's just pretty much it. A Saturday night special in most people's mind is a small revolver. So I have here my three smallest revolvers to show you today. And we're going to start straight away with this one here, the oldest and the smallest. All these guns are empty. I've checked them before starting, but as I pick each one up, I will show you these are empty. Now this is is it Harrington or Harrison? Old man moment. Give me a second here. This is a H&R Arms. Well, thank you. That helps, doesn't it? I believe it's Harrington and Richardson is what the H&R stands for. And on the top strap here, we've got Young America Bulldog. Okay, now these really were a mass-produced cheap pistol. That's when you look at the history of this particular gun, that's where you see the mention of the first mentions of Saturday night special was for this gun. So what is it? They were a range of 5-shot pocket pistols. Okay, this one is very, very small. I mean, I've got small hands, but you can see just how small these are. I've got a little pouch for it there, a little holster. This is the one that's usually in my pocket when I'm around and about the place for tin can duties. It's a 5-shot. They started production of this in the 1880s, I believe. The first ones up to around 1900 had a round barrel. So it was a round barrel on the front of there. And then from about 1900 onwards, they went to a hexagonal barrel like this one. And they were both proofed for black powder only, because that's all they had back then. Black powder was the thing. But then they invented the smokeless powders, which give a lot more power, a lot higher pressures, and it's smokeless, so it's a lot cleaner to use. But you couldn't use them in an old black powder gun. So this one, you'll see stamped on this side, it's actually got 32 rimfire. So if it's a hexagonal barrel and it's got the cartridge stamped onto the barrel, that means it is post 1907, and it is proofed for smokeless powder, which this one is. Now it's in 32 rimfire, which is an obsolete caliber, so you're allowed to own this without a license even in the UK. In fact, I bought this in the UK. There is no need for a license for it unless you try and use it, but here we're allowed to use it as well. So I've actually got all the necessary doings to make 32 rimfire rounds, and here is one here. I cast the bullets myself. The casing is just a 32 caliber casing with a slightly offset piece at the back there to accept a small acorn 2.2 blank charge, and because it's slightly offset, if you have that the right way around in the chamber, the rimfire hammer will hit the rim of the 2.2 blank, setting off the powder charge, allowing it to be fired. So I do use this one. It does shoot legally. and I use a very small charge of smokeless powder in it. It's over 100 years old. I have no intention on grenading it. With the powder charge I'm using, which I again tested very safely under test conditions in a box, it's producing around 60 foot-pounds. So it's quite a potent little thing considering its size. And to load it, there's a little spring-loaded button there. You push that in, that rod comes out, and then the chamber just drops out of there. So you pop your rounds into that, making sure that the rim of the 22 is towards the outside. Pop him back in there. Bum, bum, bum. That goes in there, and that's it. Now it is single and double action, so you can fire it on single action or fire it on, I'm not going to dry fire it, but fire it on double action as well. It's a very, very heavy pull on double action, but it's actually nicer than the single action. For some reason, the single action, it might need a polish somewhere inside of there, which I'm loath to do at the moment, but it kind of hangs up before it fires. So it'll fire in single, but it's a lot harder than you'd expect it to be. But double action, it's easier. Although I say easier, you can't hit anything with it. It's got a foresight, but there's nothing at all at the rear there. And in testing, even at 7 meter, got 7 meter range I use inside here. Even if I have that front sight, so it's at its lowest, and I can just about see it over the top strap, that's still shooting the top of the card when I'm aiming at the bottom of the card. So as far as aiming is concerned, forget it. It's a belly gun. They were called a belly gun. You kept it in your vest pocket there, and if you had an argument with somebody, it just came out and you just held it there and shot them. Not a nice thing to do, but they weren't nice people. So we're going to be looking at all of these at the range in a little while, but for now, that's the Harrington and Richards Young America Bulldog, made in, this particular one I believe is about 1920. Next we have something you'll all recognise. Again, all guns have been checked, they're all empty, but I will just show you it's completely clear. This is a Webley and Scott Mark III pocket. The Webley pocket pistols were based on the service pistols, but they have a bird's head grip on there, smaller grip on there, and obviously a shorter barrel. The sights are non-adjustable, and it has the same automatic ejector loading action as the service revolver. They're 6-shot, single or double action, and this one, it's extremely nice trigger. I actually take this to the club quite often. I shoot it a lot, and whenever I take it to the club on a Sunday morning, there's always a lot of interest, and everybody wants to go with it. It's just one of those guns. It's a fascinating thing. They started production in, again, it was the late 19th century and continued all the way up to, I believe, the 1950s. Or some say it's actually the 1930s, but they continued to be stamped and proofed until the 1950s. But the actual production stopped in about 33. And this is one of the last ones from the early 30s. We've got proof markings on here that show it's proofed for smokeless as well as black powder. So that means, again, we can use a smokeless higher pressure charge inside of it. And this one, the caliber is 38 Smith & Wesson, which is classed as an obsolete caliber here in France. It's classed as an obsolete caliber, which means, and the patent for this is before 1900. That was the bit I was trying to remember. The patent is from before 1900, which means you don't need a license to own or shoot this gun. The rounds that it fires are 38 Smith & Wesson, which is ever so slightly different in case size to a standard 38. You can use a cut down 38 cartridge, but I've managed to source in the UK some 38 Smith & Wesson for reloading. Again, I cast my own bullet. That's 110 grain, I believe, semi-wad cutter bullet. And because, again, it's a 100-year-old gun, I don't want to grenade it. I use a very small charge in there. So this is coming out around about 120 foot-pound on one of those. But the recoil is as sweet as a sweet thing. It's a lovely, lovely pistol to shoot, and surprisingly accurate. All three of these are going to be having their own videos individually, but this one is just, like I say, the Saturday night specials. We're just looking at 3 little revolvers. So that's him. And now we come to the big boy, this massive pistol here. Again, just to show you, they're empty and completely safe. This one completely fulfills the requirements for a Saturday night special. It's a very cheaply made Taurus. It's a Taurus copy of a Smith & Wesson J-frame, but the J-frames are getting expensive now, and also they're 38 special only. This is a copy of it, and it is rated for 357 Magnum. Like the first gun, it's a 5-shot, but the same as the other two, it is single and double action. This one is actually, the trigger on it is lovely, but it's horrible to shoot. This is actually my wife's pistol, one of my wife's pistols. She calls it the spiteful little wanker. Doesn't matter what load you put in it, you can put reduced 38s in there. It just hurts when you fire it. You don't shoot this for fun. You shoot this because you have to shoot something. That's the only reason to do it. Whenever people come to visit, I take them to the range and I lay out all my guns. So basically everything from this up to an AR-15 across the desk. So, right, what do you want to start with? And they always say, oh, well, I'll start with the little one. So I get some of these out. Now, this is a 357 Magnum hexagon round. Okay, it's a fragmenter. It's designed to explode on impact. It's not for target use, but it is quite powerful. And in here, it's bloody painful to use. I will fire some of these off in a minute when we get to the range. I'll show you that. I'm not looking forward to that part, but yeah, this is the hexagon round. And just to give you a size comparison here, there's your 357, and next to it there's your Smith & Wesson 38, and then the 32 rimfire, which doesn't want to stand up because he's so wobbly. So you can see there's an awful lot of difference in size. There's an awful lot of difference in power. That one's 60, this one's about 110. These are about 400, even through that little 2-inch barrel. They're about 400 foot-pounds. So lots of stopping power, lots of bang, lots of kick, lots of entertainment when you watch somebody else shoot it. And just to give you an idea, because we've gone from small to a bit bigger, you might be under the impression that that's actually a bit of a beast. Just to give you a comparison with a real gun, there's that one, and that's my real man's gun, my Smith & Wesson Model 29-2 with a 5.5-inch barrel in 44 Magnum. That is my Dirty Harry gun. It is the same gun as used in the film, and this one was made in 1973. There will be videos about this. Oh yes, there will be videos about this. It's my absolute favourite gun. So there we are, 3 small cheap revolvers. Oh, another interesting fact about this, it didn't fit the criteria for Saturday night special. Yeah, Saturday night special, because it was never a particularly cheap gun. It's a very well made gun, but this was a gentleman's gun. So from the late 1800s through until the 1950s, when the firearms, or 60s was it, when you actually needed a license to carry one of these, a gentleman would invariably carry a Webley. So that does class as, because it's the self-defense gun. That's what it was built for. It's for self-defense. And another thing, if you watch the original series of the Avengers, Emma Peel had one of these. Now, I don't know if it was a Mark III or a Mark IV, but it was definitely the pocket version with the bird's head stock and the 3-inch barrel. But hers was gold plated with ivory scales, not scales, that's a knife, ivory grips on the back. Mine's not gold plated with ivory on the back, because even I'm not that camp. Now we're going to go to the range, have a shoot with them, and I'll see you there. Here we are at the range. I'm going to be shooting towards the gongs at 25 metres with no great expectation of hitting anything. And here are the guns, as per on the bench earlier. We've got the 32 rimfire, 38 Smith & Wesson, and the 357 Magnum. Let's get some eyes and ears on, get safe, and start shooting. We're going to be struggling a bit today with the light because there's a power cut in here, and the lighting isn't working, so all the light is behind me, so I'm probably in shadow, but you won't mind that. So we're going to start off with the 32 rimfire, the Harrington and Richards from about 1920. So take out the pen and the cylinder comes out for reloading. Make sure all of the offsets for the acorn are towards the outside so that it will fire using the rimfire hammer. 3, 4 and 5. There we go, like that. That's it, all 5 are in here, and we're just going to fire it on double action towards the targets. There we go. Make the gun safe. The gun's clear. Now, as you can see, I've got sooty marks on my fingers from it because the way it works. One of the rounds didn't go off because it was in the wrong position. I hadn't put it in the correct line and it struck to the side of it. And the other one I didn't fire because I miscounted. So that's the Harrington and Richardson. Try something a little bit bigger. Now we've got the Webley Mark III pocket, 38 Smith & Wesson. I'm actually going to be shooting. I stand a chance of hitting the gongs with these. Not a great chance, but it is actually doable. So here we've got my home rolled rounds, 115 grain I think it is, semi-wad cutter bullets. That wasn't me. I'm going to fire this one on single action, give me a better chance of hitting the target. One. Make the gun safe, empty the cartridges. There we go. It's just a lovely gun to shoot. If you ever get the chance to have a go at one of these, I thoroughly recommend it. Now it's the turn of the spiteful little wanker. I've had an idea. Dan! Right, Dan, you're going to help me with this one because I need to video somebody shooting it for the YouTube. So there's a bullet in there. Lift it, single action, shoot at the gongs. Le snigger. Okay, I fooled my patsy. I'll have a few shots for it now. Again, I'm not expecting to hit anything. It's not really a target gun as such. And even with these lighter rounds, home rolled rounds, it's still not a pleasant thing to shoot. Fucking hell. Have it. And there we have it. This is one seriously unpleasant gun to shoot. I hope you enjoyed seeing them being used. Please like, subscribe and hit notifications, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.